3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to the Bridgewater Raynham Connection. I'm Pat Riley. My co-host is our Superintendent of Schools, Derek Swenson. Welcome.
Thanks, Pat.
As we have concluded the 2015-16 school year.
We have, and we concluded it on a strong note, too,
Yes.
with some great end-of-the-year activities and the culmination of all our events being the BR High School graduation.
Absolutely. That National Honor Society induction is always wonderful. The Academic Awards Night, Sports Athletic Awards Night, you know, the Scholarship Awards Night. We have to mention that too, Derek, because that is just so phenomenal, the support that our communities of Bridgewater and Raynham give to our district with all of the scholarship assistance.
Absolutely. I think this year it was close to $100,000 in scholarships from private families and from local businesses and organizations to a multitude of students. And I wasn't really expecting how emotional that night would be. When you think about kind of the origin of where these scholarships are coming from, especially the families who have maybe experienced loss of, you know, a child, and they want to now, in the memory of that child, you know, provide educational support to classmates. And you know, there was one in particular, the Levine family, whose daughter passed away from cancer, I believe when she was in kindergarten, and this would have been her graduating class.
Yeah.
So it was very emotional, and we are, you know, so appreciative of our families and our local businesses and organizations that give back. And I say it all the time, we have the best communities around and the best community support. So very appreciative of that.
And it's so nice for them to memorialize someone who, you know, they've lost tragically with something like that that's so positive.
Absolutely. And then put it forward to help, you know, with the students kind of move forward with their education and in needing that, especially now with how costly higher ed has become. Any amount is helpful in helping our students, you know, move forward in their education. So.
And then we have Bridgewater State University that gives scholarships for some of our graduates going to BSU, which is wonderful.
Absolutely. They give about 25 $1,000 scholarships to our students that are attending BSU in the fall. So we've created such and this started with Dr. Forbes and her time in the district, such a great partnership with BSU, and they're so supportive of us and our students. So it's great to have that right in our own backyard and be able to kind of tap into their resources.
And then Bristol County Savings Bank supports our students through Massasoit, so that's great as well.
Right, so we have our Massasoit programming that we have at the high school. That Bristol County Savings has been so generous with over the course of the last few years. So just all the families, the local businesses, and just the support that we have from the general community as well of donations. I know that, you know, every April I got a knock at my door with the students out there collecting, and they do a tremendous job with that. And I can't thank Lindsay Redfern and Cricket Murphy, who were the chairs of the Scholarship Foundation. So
that's great. And then, as you mentioned, graduation. That was phenomenal. Our band and chorus do such a great job, and that is just such a nice event.
Absolutely, and I always say it kind of puts into perspective, you know, everything that we do. That's the culminating moment of 13 years of public education when we get to that point. So when you sit back and you kind of span the crowd and you see those students, some of those students sitting in that crowd that night I had in 4th grade at the Williams Intermediate School when I first came to the district. So that too was a very emotional day, you know, for us to, and it's nice that we have, you know, we have support of our dignitaries, like our school committee members. We had Representative D'Amelia. We had former town councilman from Bridgewater. We've had a selectman. Karen Roberts was on the podium with us. And it's just nice that we have that community support of everyone there. And I think the principals and assistant principals attend, and I tell them all the time, even though that these are high school students, you played a role in them sitting there and walking across that stage and getting that diploma and shaking that hand of the school committee member, on that day. So it's a very special day for us. It was my first one, and I couldn't ask for a better one.
Absolutely. And really impressive with our students that are going into the military service, too. It's really nice the way Miss Watson recognizes them, and everybody gave them a standing ovation.
Yeah, that's something that Miss Watson instituted last year, which I think is tremendous. And that's, again, a very emotional time. You see those students stand up, and all branches of the military were represented. So it's nice that they have that recognition as well.
Excellent. And it has been a good year. Your first year as superintendent. So.
Yes. And I can't believe I can't believe I look at the calendar and it just feels like last year at this time, the whole process of looking for the new superintendent was happening, and here we are a year later. But, the year went by, quite speedily, which most school years do, because we're so busy when we're trying to implement so much change. And but I got to tell you, it was the best first year a superintendent could ask for. I have an incredible, supportive school committee. I have a great number two in Mr. Powers, and all of my principals, assistant principals, my secretary, my support staff, my teachers, my paraprofessionals, custodians, clerical workers, you name it. We have the best people around, and it makes my job a lot easier when everyone does their job so effectively.
But an awful lot goes into it because, as you said, the transition for you from being principal at one point to now the whole business aspect of it can be overwhelming, I'm sure.
Well, I always say when you are a teacher or you go into even site-based administration, assistant principal, it's about education. And when you get to central office, it's about the business of education. And sometimes you're going to have to make some difficult decisions because really at the end of the day, it's my job and responsibility to make sure that operational budget can support and sustain all of the initiatives and pay the salaries and get the resources in that our students need and deserve. So I'm realizing this year that how big of a piece of my job is actually the operational budget. And I can't say enough about my Director of Business Services, Kathy Macedo, who I'll come with my hand out in November and she'll say no, and I don't understand why. But then when we get to June and we have a healthy bottom line and we're able to do some pre-purchasing of resources and textbooks and things for the following school year, which allows us in the next fiscal year to have some cushion should we have to, hire an additional teacher or an additional administrator or whatever it may be. Last year at this time, Heidi Latenda, who's the principal at the Mitchell Elementary School, came to myself and Dr. Forbes stating that her numbers were extremely high with all the move-ins that she had, and we had to hire a second and third grade teacher that wasn't budgeted for. But because we are so fiscally responsible in the previous year's budget and we're able to do some of the pre-purchasing, we don't have to hit some of those supply and resource lines in the FY 17 budget. We're able to kind of take some of those monies and create positions that we need to. The year before, we had a very, very difficult winter, as everyone remembers. And it ended up being $450,000 in snow removal from the roof. So you have to make sure that you have some flexibility in your operational budget. So I've learned a tremendous amount about budget over the course of the last 3 years through Dr. Forbes and Kathy. So we're in, knock on wood, good shape financially, and we didn't have to have any layoffs this year, which means we're able to maintain our current class size, and still be able to kind of bring in some of those resources in terms of technology, textbooks, and all the instructional needs of our students.
Right, because we don't have a backup plan to the extent that you have to get your budget approved by the two communities in this case, and we have to live with that budget. You've got the bottom line figure, and that has to go. If other expenses come up, we have to be able to find a way to pay for them.
Correct. And that's the difficult part of an operational budget that's set the year previous. We just had our fiscal 17 budget passed in May. So, like you said, Pat, this is what we have to work with. But we know going in, we begin our budget process, believe it or not, in October. And we begin building our budget. And we start to prioritize what's a need, what's a want, and what's going to be, a reasonable budget for us to be able to obviously make payroll and, purchase the resources we need and keep the lights on and keep the heat on in the winter. So, and again, when you have people like Kathy Macedo and my administrative team, who work together and trying to keep an eye on the bottom line and make fiscally responsible decisions throughout the school year, it makes it a little bit easier.
Sure. And Kathy and yourself are always meeting with our budget subcommittee, going over where we are, if one line is a little, over, under, whatever, to keep tabs on all of that.
Correct. Every Monday morning, I have a management meeting with my management team. So it's myself, the Assistant Superintendent Ryan Powers, Kathy Macedo is our Director of Business Services, our HR Director Mary Gormley, our Director of Student Services Carla Thomas, our Database Manager Meg Cohen, Mike Bennett, who's our IT manager, and we kind of have a round table, and they kind of let me know the needs of each individual department. And every Monday, Kathy and I sit down and we go through that line item budget, and she tells me some of the hot spots or some of the areas that we got to kind of keep a close eye on. And that's the information that we then bring to the budget subcommittee. And we meet monthly, and it's usually, it could be more than monthly, we can meet a couple of times per month. And that's the information we bring to the subcommittee, and then they report that out to the full school committee at the school committee meetings.
I recall that when we were doing the superintendent search, we did at the end of last school year ask for public input from parents, what they thought we should be looking for in a superintendent. And one thing was that somebody that would be easily accessible, you could see in the community, in the schools and so forth, because sometimes when you're involved with the business, you can just spend your whole time in the office. And I know you've taken some good steps to make sure that you are a visible presence in our schools, as in our community as well.
That's always something that once I entered administration as an assistant principal, one of my greatest mentors, Jim Rice, Dr. Jim Rice, he was the assistant superintendent in North Attleboro. He always stressed, no matter how busy you are, you have to continuously remind yourself what exactly it is you are about, and that's the kids. So you have to get out and actually realize sometimes why you go home with so many headaches at times, and realize that it is worth it. And that's something that both Ryan Powers, our assistant superintendent, really truly made a commitment to this year. And even as an assistant principal, I walk the classrooms daily. That's just my management style. And I brought that in with me to central office, even when I was the director of curriculum and assistant superintendent. And this year, we would just talk to our executive secretary, Judy McDougall, and just say, block off a few blocks a week where nothing's planned and that we can just kind of get out. And we do that. We try to get to both sides of the district on a weekly basis, and maybe not get to every single school on each side of the district, but and then the following week visit those schools that we didn't get to. We also meet quite often with our principals and assistant principals, and what we tried to do is schedule those meetings actually in the school buildings rather than at central office, because it gives us another opportunity to actually visit the schools. It's the greatest part of my job. I really truly enjoy that piece to it, the people piece, going in and seeing the students, seeing the teachers, the paraprofessionals, everyone within the organization playing their role. And I do pride myself on being accessible, because for me, I can only change things that need to be changed if it's brought to my attention. And I encourage people, come to me, let me know what it is that we can do to improve your role within the organization, because if we improve everyone's role within the organization as a whole is going to be successful, and that's going to trickle down to our students. So it's time consuming at times, but it's well worth the time. And it's something that I promise to continue to be part of my role as superintendent, to be visible. And I can't say enough about our new assistant superintendent, Ryan Powers, and we're cut from the same cloth in terms of being visible and accessible. And, you know, he too is a parent within the district. So when you have skin in the game, it makes it, you know, it brings it even, you know, further for you in terms of the type of change and the type of leader you want to be.
Right. And I know you both try to get to as many special events as possible, and that's really important too for the people that are involved, the students, the teachers, members of the public, and so forth.
Absolutely. Education's more than what you do between, you know, 8 to 2:30 every day. The extracurricular activities, the plays, the musicals, those types of things, those are all part of the educational experience for our students. So we try our best to attend as many as we can. At the end of the school year, I could probably be at something every night. my dance
Really?
card's full, but it's all great stuff. So we enjoy doing that part of our job as well.
And I hope people in the public get a chance to go to some of those events. For example, our rainwater plays, oh my gosh, their Oklahoma was phenomenal.
Every year, Lisa White and Eric Hoy and everyone involved with rainwater do such a great job. And sometimes you sit there and you kind of lose yourself in the play and don't, you kind of forget that you're actually at a high school performance.
Really.
Because the talent that's there in terms of the acting, singing, dancing, but even the stage sets and the costumes that, the wardrobe that they get from professional theater companies. So they do a tremendous job with that. In fact, I just saw Lisa White about a week ago. It was a week or two ago. It was at the retirement reception, and she said, "Oh, I already have next year's play ready to go." So she doesn't skip a beat.
That's excellent. I don't know if our viewers saw our last school committee meeting, or actually it was the May, but we did our annual evaluation of our superintendent, and you got some very high marks from the school committee. So congratulations.
Thank you,
on
Pat.
that.
Thank you.
And of many accomplishments, but one I think, because it's so important, it's a large district to keep that connectedness, is our BR connection and the BR Buzz.
Oh, BR Buzz, yeah. When I was the principal at BMS, it was the BMS Buzz, and every week I would kind of report out on what different teams within the building were doing, because sometimes a 7th grade team doesn't realize what's going on within an 8th grade team. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to bring that to the district level, because we are a regional district, but sometimes the B and the R don't always have the best of opportunities to kind of share information with one another. So when I did come in early on with the administrative team at one of our first administrative meetings, I stated that I wanted to create a weekly newsletter. And I can't say enough, thanking the principals and assistant principals enough, and the directors. They send me, we have it on a Google Doc drive, and everyone shares information that's going on in their building. And we put it together. And at first, Mr. Powers and I were putting it together, and it just needed a little bit of a woman's touch. So Mrs. McDougall came in, and she got really creative with it. And she does such a wonderful job with it. She put a district bulletin board with all of our flyers that go out, and it's just a great way of sharing what's going on throughout our district, but also the sharing of ideas.
Absolutely.
Because it's great that, you know, maybe a 1st grade teacher at the Mitchell is realizing what the 1st grade teacher at the Merrill's doing. And it's actually led to some collaboration in terms of different activities that they planned throughout the end of the school year. So. And every Friday we put it up. We put it up on social media, our Facebook page. We put it on our website. And you know, the feedback we get has been really truly positive. So.
And that's one of the really advantages of being a regional district, is to be able to share. So that's a really good. Another really positive, something new, was our BR stroll for our graduates. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'd love to say it was my idea, but like every idea in America now, it came from Facebook. So I had read an article about, I believe it was in New Jersey, a high school that had all of their seniors return back to their elementary and middle schools as a way of thanking their former teachers, But also, I felt it was a nice way for our elementary and our middle school students to see something that is an ends to their means. That's going to be me at some point. And if that is just something that motivates one student through our district, that stroll is going to get them to graduation, it's well worth it. So what we did was we organized it with both the towns of Bridgewater and Raynham. Can't say enough about Lucini Bus Lines. They donated 8 buses. And I went with the Bridgewater side along with Miss Watson and a few representatives from the high school. Mr. Powers brought the Raynham seniors to this side of the district. And over in Bridgewater, we visited the Williams Intermediate School. We visited was now Mitchell at the Middle. And we actually went to the original Mitchell. We obviously couldn't go inside, but we took a picture outside, which was really, it was up on our Facebook page and actually made the Brockton Enterprise too. It was a great picture. And Mr. Powers came here on this side of the district and went to Raynham Middle School, La Liberty, and Merrill. The feedback we got from the community was great, but from the teachers, it was tremendous. They were so happy to see students that were once in their classroom, in their caps and gowns, walking the hallways. The kids had drums and posters, and they were singing and cheering. It was really, really a fun event, and it's something now that we're going to make an annual tradition throughout the district. So.
Excellent, very good, good. Well, obviously we're heading into the summer months, and even though school is out, our administrative offices are very busy. A lot to accomplish between now and the opening of school.
Absolutely. This is actually the time when we get a majority of our duties and tasks completed because we tried to do so much in the late month of June and July, because once August rolls around, teachers start coming back to the buildings. We've got to make sure our custodial staff has our buildings ready, and Mr. Baroncelli and his custodial staff are second to none. They're already working incredibly hard, stripping floors and getting classrooms moved or things that we need to get moved. But really, truly, this is the time of the year that we start to put in to place plans for initiatives that will be implemented, throughout this summer and going into the next academic year. One thing this year that we're really moving forward with in the district is we're going to more of a centralized registration. And the reason why we're doing that is sometimes when we have parents who come to the district, they may have 2 or 3 students, and the students may go to 3 different schools. On the Raynham side, if they were at the Merrill, the La Liberty, and RMS, excuse me, they would have to go to 3 different sites. Right now, what we want to do is create one site where the parents come, they talk to one person who's going to be Kathy Martelli, who's at central office. She's going to take all of the registration information for them. She's going to let them know if there are things that they may need to complete. And we actually just been working on an informational sheet that we're going to be giving out at the different schools so that when parents come in to register, they know exactly what they need to bring to central office. And it'll be at central office at 166 Mount Prospect Street. Another reason we want to do that is because the data that's inputted into our students' information system is very important information, because that's what gets submitted to the state and what's called our SIMS data about our students. And the different codes for the different areas of a student's background actually equates to dollars from the state. Right. So we want to make sure that that's a uniform process for us for our data entry. And Kathy Martelli has been working with Meg Cohen, who's our database manager, and has been training for the last few weeks. And that's going to go into effect as of July 1st, which is this Friday. So we're feeling like that, for the convenience of parents who might have multiple children, but also for us to make sure that our data input is efficient and effective.
Sure, definitely, definitely. It used to be, a few years back, we used to post the bus routes at the schools, and then we posted them online, and then for security reasons we stopped doing that, and last year we had to send letters out. But this year we have our parent portals.
That's great. And we worked tremendously hard over the course of the last 2 or 3 months with representatives from Lucini Bus Line, Gail Howard, who is Mr. Lucini's right-hand woman, and Kathy Macedo, our Director of Business Services, Meg, our database manager. Our, our goal this year was to allow our parents to have their bus route and bus stop information prior to leaving the end of this school year. Traditionally, they've received it a few days before the school year starts, and then sometimes it becomes a very chaotic time in
Sure.
terms of, parents sometimes are concerned with, safety concerns of the stop and whatnot. So we worked very hard this year, along with the transportation subcommittee, which was a new subcommittee to the full school committee this year. We revamped our transportation policy, and we've created now what's called an appeals hearing board, where in the past parents would call and just try to have their bus stop changed. Now it actually goes to a hearing board, which will be representatives from the Transportation Committee, the administrative staff, myself, Mr. Powers, Mrs. Macedo, and then a representative from Lucini Bus Lines, who won't be actually a voter in the process in terms of voting yay or nay if whether a stop should be changed, but be there kind of as a resource because Mr. Lucini and his folks really know those routes, backwards and forwards. So that's new this year, but what was great was, yes, we don't have to print out all those letters and send out all that postage. It got uploaded right to the parent portal. It got uploaded the Friday before we left school. The appeal process began on the Monday after, and it closes on July 8th, which is next Friday. And then at that point, Kathy Martelli and Judy McDougall will then be contacting the parents, setting up appointments for their hearing boards, appeals board appointments. And then at that point, if changes need to be made, it'll be communicated to the parents at the end of the appeal hearings, which is like after the first week of August. So everything will be set by the middle of August. Any changes can be made will be made by then. Again, information will then be uploaded to the parent portal, so we don't have to print out any, paper or hard copy information. And at that point, knock on wood, we can begin the school year, in a smooth manner in terms of transportation.
And people should know that we did some group stops before. We have done some more because financially it's just impossible to provide door-to-door service, really.
It's about $60,000 per year per bus. And right now, by consolidating the stops, we've been going on to larger passenger buses, going from 60 passenger buses to the 83, 84 passenger buses that Mr. Lucini has been kind enough to provide to us at the same cost of the lower carriage buses. We've been able to eliminate 3 buses. That's $180,000. That's teachers, that's books, that's paraprofessionals, that's clericals, that's administrative support. So for us, it's sometimes I realize that it may be a little bit less of a convenience for parents, and that's not our intent. Our intent is not to inconvenience, any of our stakeholders, but it is, again, getting back to our original conversation. It's about looking at that operational budget and realizing the things that we can do within that existing operational budget, knowing that that's the money we're going to get.
Right.
And then just being really smart and fiscally responsible with the public funding that we have received. And just kind of making sometimes, again, some of the decisions we make are not very popular, and we understand that. And it's not about upsetting or inconveniencing families, but it is about making sure that we have an operational budget that can sustain our organization and make sure that we provide our students with top-notch educational experiences every day.
Absolutely. Believe it or not, it looks like we are almost out of time. But if people have questions, they can contact the superintendent's office.
Absolutely. We're there all summer. In fact, our new summer hours we just put out, which start on July 11th. We're going to be working an additional hour every day, Monday through Thursday. So our traditional hours have been 8 to 4. We're now going to be opening from 7:30 to 4:30, Monday through Thursday, and then from 8 to noon time on Fridays.
Okay.
And we put that out on social media yesterday. It's up on our website. We put some signage out on the front door at central office. And if anyone ever has any questions or concerns, they can always call 508 279-2140, extension 113.
And if there are any important notices or whatever, they'll go up on our website between now and
Website, and
opening day.
then
Facebook
I did a lot with
page.
Facebook yesterday. I put some information about
great.
central registration. That information also went up on our website. We realized that more gets passed through social media than the actual website, so we try to use that.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat.
We want to thank all of you for watching as well. We'll see you on our next episode of the BR Connection.